Aquarius workshop: transform disorder into order. I start with a quote from Pathwork Lecture 205 with the title Order as a Universal Principle. And the quote is as follows: chaos and disorder in human life are of course reality, being a consequence of distortion. Inner order exists when human beings are totally conscious, when there is no longer any unconscious material. Since there is no human being of whom this could be said, order exists only to relative degrees in human life, just as every other divine manifestation can exist only to relative degrees. End of quote from Pathwork Lecture 205. Order reigns throughout the universe as a result of divine harmony. Inner and outer order can exist only when one is fully conscious and guided by divine truth and reality. However, humanity is not that far in its development yet, because we are about 90% unconscious. As long as we live in untruth and believe in false beliefs, disorder, fear, chaos and confusion in our lives is the result. Confusion and disorder reinforce each other and both waste creative energy. This disorder throws off balance and traps us in a chain reaction of conflict and confusion. The truth is that we are loved and valuable and form one divine consciousness with all life and are subject to perfect mathematical order. Because this information from the higher self is distorted by the lower self, and we identify ourselves with the non-life force, we live out of ignorance and untruth and find ourselves deeply unworthy, creating inner disorder in our lives. Every falsehood, illusion, or misconception creates duality, irreconcilable opposites, from which further disorder, conflict, destructive emotions, thoughts, and actions arise. The disorder grows to the extent that we fail to make mature decisions, suppress selfish motives, and replace real needs with false ones. Once we discover the truth behind these illusions, the splits in our understanding begins to heal. The unbalanced psychic forces come back into balance. Then order and unity arise, and the confusion, disorder and conflicts are transformed into corresponding productive, real, constructive feelings, thoughts, and actions. In this workshop you will explore with a love and curiosity, through 3 fundamental themes of the Pathwork Lectures, how disorder can be transformed into order. I start with the first theme, creating order through daily review. During the daily review, we create order by looking at whether there have been moments of disorder, disharmony, or negative emotions. We examine what we really felt at that moment and why. Every event, small or big, is important and is an expression of our inner world. Every disharmonious situation and negative emotion is a sign of untruth and lovelessness. Of course, it is also important to examine when we have been in harmony and why. In this way, we get a daily overview of the order and disorder in our lives and of what we have already learned and what we still have to learn. The next quote stems from Pathwork Lecture 16. Unconscious tendencies create a great deal of harm. They create conflict. It creates a disorder within you. This represents the uncleansed or unhygienic soul. This is the way we see it. There is so much in there that has no place in it that ought to be washed away or ousted. So cleanse your souls as you cleanse your bodies. And every day this ought to be done. Every day you ought to review your day and examine your own reactions to the various incidents that have taken place during the day. This is the only way you can cleanse your spirits, your souls. End of quote from Pathwork Lecture 16. The second theme: tackling inner and outer disorder with self-discipline. Self-discipline is necessary for spiritual and earthly fulfillment, for it creates a healthy and strong ego grounding in reality. There can be no order without the effort of voluntary self-discipline. Only with self-discipline it is safe to surrender to the deep peace and happiness of the involuntary processes, to self-developmental, to sexuality, to deep feelings and processes. We must discipline ourselves to transform disorder into order on all levels and pray for guidance to maintain this mature attitude. The next quote stands for Pathwork Lecture 205. Pay attention how disturbed you really are by your disorder. The resisting part in you knows that if you free yourself of the burden of disorder, your inner work will be so much easier. And the resisting part wants to avoid just that. The disorderly person is never able to concentrate. The same also applies, of course, to the compulsively orderly person who merely compensates for his inner disorder. Disorder makes concentration and focusing impossible. The mind must wander because it must be preoccupied with the things undone, with disorganized life and chaos. End of quote from Pathwork Lecture 205. The third and last theme: creating inner order is experiencing abundance. What we believe, we experience. That is why it is important to become aware of what we consciously and unconsciously think, feel, and believe. We can choose to believe in the poverty of a limiting and hostile life, or we can believe that life is all generosity and abundance. When we create order in our lives by being willing to change and give our best to life, it feels like our birthright to receive the abundance of the universe. The next and last quote stems from Pathwork Lecture 250. This path is directly designed to create an inner order, painful as this may be at first, so that you can then begin to build on real assets and never allow your inner economics to become fraudulent and unsound. The temporary pain of exposing your debts, your deficits, is entirely based on the false world picture that, by doing so, you are doomed to accept the reality of poverty. For you cannot trust that your unsound managing can be changed, that you can indeed create real riches based on a healthy policy. End of quote of Pathwork Lecture 250. I wish you peace and all the best. Thank you.